hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello and welcome to Talktorial Tuesday. Hi, so today's video, we're gonna be playing, okay, so I haven't played with the Smokey Glow palette in a video in like a minute, but I wanted to just kind of hop on and do a tutorial just because this is going to be, when I'm posting this, a couple of days after the like year anniversary of the palette going live, and I thought it would just be fun to kind of like reflect on the past year with the palette. I know a lot of you guys have bought this and I really appreciate that. I also know a lot of you guys have just like shared my video or shared tweets promoting the palette or have liked and engaged in any way. And I just want to say thank you if you did that as well. So I just want to play with the palette, do a little look, and let's get into it. I'm gonna go in with Cold Brew right here. So the kind of crazy thing about this palette for me, first of all, posted about this on Instagram and everything, but like it's been so insanely just kind of surreal the past year with this palette. I knew that I was going to be creating this in like the spring, I believe, the spring of 2019. I knew that I was going to be making this palette, and I had so much time to think about like what I wanted it to be, like conceptually what I wanted it to be. And I think what I tried to do with this palette was create something that I felt like I would use every day, but that was still interesting. You guys know, if you know me, I'm kind of a boring I do kind of boring makeup looks sometimes. Like they're not always the most, I love a neutral like brown and gold look, right? So I wanted to do that. Like you have the neutrals and the browns, but I also love pinks and purples. They're like my favorite colors to play with. I'm gonna go in with rose right here. Pinks and purples are like my absolute favorite colors to play around with. And so I wanted this to work in that way, but also I was really, what I didn't really talk about at the time, I don't think, was how like intimidating it was put out something like a palette basically, because when I started the process for the collab, I was at about 30,000 subscribers, and when we were talking like numbers of how many we think would sell, and we were talking about all of that, it was obviously like incredibly low because we were just like, okay, you have like 30,000 subs, and I wanted to make it amazing, but I was like, okay, it's not too much, you know, pressure, you know, especially because Midas was such a small brand. They still are a really small brand, but they've definitely grown in the last like year or two, and so there wasn't as much sort of pressure there. Like it was kind of like, okay, we're gonna put it out, we're gonna hope for the best, like hopefully people like it, hopefully people vibe with it. But then as I started growing in subscriber count, I had in the back of my head, I knew that this palette was coming, and I started panicking just a little bit because I really wanted to make sure that this was like perfect. Like I wanted this to be this sort of perfect, amazing thing, you know? And I think there's this sort of fear creating this stuff like this that I never really hear influencers who do collabs talk about, so maybe it's just a me fear, but my biggest fear was like nobody liking it. Like I didn't even, I wasn't even like, oh, nobody's gonna buy it. It was that nobody was gonna like it. Like that people were going to see it and be like, that is ugly or boring or like bad. And obviously some people said that, but I kind of knew that was gonna happen. I feel like when you make like makeup, you have to be open to people like not liking something, because like I don't like half the makeup that comes out. Honestly, like 80% of makeup that comes out I hate. So I wasn't expecting 100% approval. I was just hoping that like some people would like it. And honestly, like when we launched, I had so much anxiety around the launch because there was so much going on. If you remember back during that time, I think I'm gonna go in with content. If you remember during that time, that was when COVID was just starting to sort of impact production, and my palette was done, it was completed, everything was ready to go, but they just literally could not ship it out of the factories. And it was the most like infuriating like I think it was a few weeks, 6 weeks, I can't remember the time frame now honestly, but however long it took to get the palettes actually from the warehouse to the United States it was just the most painful process. And I'll never forget Rocio. Rocio was giving me like daily, she's the owner of Midas. She was giving me like these daily updates because basically we had done the launch, and then knowing that it was going to take like a couple weeks to get to people, I think it was 2 weeks. We did the launch and then it was like, okay, never mind. It's going to be like months now because of COVID. And the problem was at that point, COVID had not yet reached the US. So nobody in the US, which was a primary market for us, like that's primarily where most of the palettes were sold. And the US really understood, I think, why it was taking so long, because nobody really understood what COVID was at that point still. Like even I hadn't been super up to date with it until it was impacting the palette, and then I was like, oh, this is very serious. That was actually like my first real understanding that something very serious was happening in the world was in at the end of January, when like all this started happening. And then obviously by March, I mean, it was here. So then I think people kind of understood a little bit better, because a lot of stuff started being impacted by COVID. I'm gonna go in with Amazing. I was really honestly kind of terrified about all that, but then everything worked out. We got it in the hands of you guys. And I think what's so interesting was when I was making this palette, I felt so like creatively fulfilled, and I felt so happy and proud of this palette, and I felt like it was so, like that whole process of creating was something that I didn't, like I knew I would feel. Like I knew creating this I would feel amazing, like it would be the best. But what I could never have anticipated was seeing like other people create, I'm gonna like cry, but like I'll never forget watching the first few videos that were like review videos that people put up of people buying the PR box, or they bought, you know, the palette or whatever. And I'll never forget watching the videos of people like using it for the first time, and people creating looks that like I never would have thought of, and people using it in a really versatile and like awesome way. Also never forget Angelica Nyquist here on YouTube, who, if you're not subscribed to her channel, she is fantastic. And she also just came out with a collaboration with Kaleidos, which I'm going to be reviewing, I hope next week if it gets here. But anyway, Angelica Nyquist was one of the very first people to review the palette, and that was such a like full circle surreal moment, because if you don't know, Angelica was back in, oh, it must have been, I think it was 2017. Angelica found my channel when I was only at about 12 subscribers, because I had made a video about someone named John Cuckian. She had found my channel and she had shouted me out. She was at like, I think she was at 25,000 or something, you know, a substantial number. She was at about that size. And she shouted out me and my video, and basically was like, this girl is great, like go check her out. And it's because of her that video, initial video that John Cuckian one, got so much traction, got pushed into the algorithm. I gained so many subscribers from her, where I went from like 100 subscribers to like 4,000 basically overnight because of her shout out. And it really was like kickstarted my channel. I've said it before, but Angelica is like the main reason that I have any success on YouTube. Like her kindness and willingness to share other channels is something that she still does to this day. And it's something that, like, if she had not done that for me, I never would be where I am now. So seeing Angelica especially like review the palette and have this palette in her hand that was like like it was so surreal. The whole thing was so surreal. And just over the past year, it's been this crazy thing. Like it's just been this like unreal, I think I'm gonna do Colleague on the lower lash line, the famously misspelled shade. No, over the past year, it's just been so surreal having this palette out, and like knowing that this exists in the world, especially after working on it for how long we did. Like knowing that this exists in the world is like the craziest thing ever. It's funny, the other day I watched my announcement video for the palette, and it's that story behind the announcement video. It was such a horrible time. I had a very limited amount of time between when I was going to be getting the final, like this, I had prototypes of everything, but I didn't have like the final package of everything until like the day before the video was supposed to be done. And I'm telling Rocio, I was like, no, she's like mashed, she's like direct shipping it to me. I'm like, no, it's gonna be fine. Like, I know what I'm gonna say. I already have like everything done. Like, I'm good. And, but the problem was I was so like stupidly sick. And you can hear it in my voice when I'm talking in the video, and also just the way I look. Like, I looked horrible. I was wearing like a hoodie. My hair looked horrible. Like, I felt so incredibly sick, like awful. Probably the sickest I've been in a long time. Like, I was that sick when the palette was launching. Also, we had just gotten Oliver, so I hadn't, and he was still a puppy who hadn't been sleeping, so I hadn't been sleeping. And also my mom was going through all this stuff. It was just like a really bad timing wise. And the video, honestly, there's so much now that I would do so differently. Like, knowing what I know now about just so many different things. Like, there's so much in that video that I would have said differently. There's so much I would have done better. Obviously, it's like you live and you learn, you know? But, and I don't think that video's cringy in any way. Like, I still think it's a very nice video. It's just like, there's so many little things that I wish I had said that I was like planning on saying, but then just didn't because I felt like I was gonna die. And I remember too, I was like done editing it, but what I do when I upload videos is I edit them and then I upload I do the, like, you know, that whole editing process. I upload them and then I watch them at 2x speed. Just to, like, once they're uploaded, just to make sure there's no, sometimes when you upload videos to YouTube, it'll be perfect in editing, but then there'll be like a processing error when you upload it. So I just like to watch it on the YouTube platform at double speed just to make sure everything is the way that it was supposed to be. So I remember I had to go to class. I was like finishing my freaking bachelor's degree. I had to go to this class, and I hated this class because I hated the teacher. I had to go to this class, and I'm sitting there watching my video, like, slyly. I had like an AirPod in my ear as my professor's talking, and I'm watching it at 2x speed, and I have the subtitles on, so I'm like trying to watch it. And I was trying so hard to get it up by the time that it needed to be up. And my friend was sitting next to me just like laughing. She was like, what are you doing? And I was like, you have no idea. This is like one of the most important videos that I'm going to be posting. And I have to sit here and post it in a freaking class that I hate. I ended up leaving the class for like 5 minutes just to finish it. So that class was so annoying because like the first 30 minutes was just the professor complaining about her life. And like... And it was supposed to be a class like checking in about our field work, and it ended up being just like, oh, worst class. Anyway, so I was like trying to upload this very important video in the middle of my class. It was like a whole thing. I'm gonna go in with group chat. Group chat's easily one of my favorite shades. I love this shade so much. I think I'm gonna use my finger actually. I did use a little bit of glitter glue. I find that that just helps with fallout on these because they do have like a little bit of fallout. They're just so sparkly. The process was like unreal. Could not have asked for a better experience. Even with all the bumps in the road, it was such a learning experience. I don't think I'm ever gonna create my own like makeup brand, just because I just don't see myself doing that. Like, I don't see myself creating a makeup brand. I've loved creating makeup with other brands, but I don't know if I necessarily want to do like a whole brand myself. But there's other places I would like to go with this channel that are like kind of business venture-y. Looking into how to do that now and how to start that process. And I learned so much from this, like doing this, that kind of inspired me to take that leap. I think the biggest thing I learned throughout the whole thing was just how easy it is and how much better it is to just be transparent if like shit's hitting the fan. Like when we couldn't get the palettes, it was just like, we just need to be honest and transparent and open, and people are allowed to be pissed because obviously your money's at play. Like, you're obviously allowed to get a refund, you're allowed to do all those things. But I found that like we were expecting, when we announced the delay in the palette launching, you know, Rocio was like, we need to prepare for like 50% cancellations. We need to prepare for, you know, pretty much everything that we had just seen on launch day kind of going away. And I was like, well, this sucks, but I understand because it's people's money. Like, I don't know what I would do in that situation. So I'm like, I understand. But then we only ended up getting like such a small percentage of people canceling, and we got the nicest, kindest emails from people just being like, yeah, we just want to support you, like, it's okay, we understand, it's out of your control, like, we get it, just keep being honest and transparent. I'm gonna go with Nutty. Love Nutty. I found that so many people really appreciated that. And that's something I kind of have taken with me, not only if I do like a little businessy thing, but also just in my career on YouTube. I feel like transparency and honesty are just always the best policy with this stuff. Nutty is just like the most fun inner corner. I'm so sorry. That's so cute. All right, let's do lashes, eyeliner, gloss, and then we'll be done. This is the look. I have to say, every time I use this palette, I know I like made it, but every time I use it, I'm like, yeah, it's a good one. I feel more confident in it. Always a look I love, but yeah. I hope you guys like this video. I just want to say it's been a year, obviously, this whole video, but I just want to say thank you. I never would have anticipated the success of the Smokey Glow palette. I never would have anticipated what it has done for me in my life. I never would have thought I would be on like trend mood. I never would have thought that like any of this could have been ever possible. And the literal only reason it was is because you guys supported it in a very, like so many different ways. Just like making videos about it after you bought it, like posting about it on Instagram, posting about it on TikTok, posting about it. I see it all the time, everywhere. It truly means so much to me. It is sold out right now, the actual palette, but we are going to be restocking it, I believe, soon. I don't have an actual date, but I'll keep you guys posted, obviously. But along with this palette, obviously the Smokey Glow palette wasn't just the palette, it was also the collection. And we had the highlighter palette and the glosses, and we are going to be discontinuing those after everything kind of sells out what we have left, just because we always said when we started, we didn't want it to be like a permanent collection, but we also didn't want it to be like limited edition. We wanted everybody who wanted it to be able to get it, and it kind of seems like with those two products, everybody who wanted it has kind of gotten it already. Are going to be discontinuing those two products soon, but palette will be getting restocked, so don't worry about that. I know that was kind of the big ticket item the whole time, but I'm gonna be sad actually. I love especially my little highlighter palette and my little glosses. I love them so much. So kind of an end of an era, but I just want to say, like, I really appreciate everyone who bought anything. I appreciate it more than I can express into words. And thank you for making this year so incredible with everything that happened. I appreciate it. But with that being said, let's do our mandatory narcissistic montage and then we'll be done. Play Pocket Full of Sunshine. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and everything I'm wearing on my face, including all this stuff, Smokey Glow palette. I know it's sold out, but I don't know when you're watching this video, so it'll be linked down below. And yeah, along with my little social justice spotlight, you can click on those links, donate. Yeah, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!